Republican Congressman Max Miller is facing a series of domestic abuse allegations. And while the Ohio Republican denies wrongdoing, public court filings, police records, photographs, and audio recordings are raising very disturbing questions. In court filings, Emily Moreno, the daughter of Ohio Senator Bernie Moreno, is accusing her ex-husband, Congressman Miller, of physical and emotional abuse of her and their 2-year-old daughter. In February, Moreno told police one night Miller held a gun to her head as she was changing their toddler's diaper. In a separate incident, she claims Miller threw hot water at her, burning her chest and her stomach. The aftermath of those alleged burns shown in these photos that are part of court filings submitted in a defamation lawsuit Miller has filed against her, Moreno. Congressman Miller claims those burns were just from a sunburn. In mid-March, there were reports that Miller and Moreno were being investigated by Ohio Child Protective Services for their 2-year-old daughter's broken collarbone and bruised shoulder. Neither Miller nor Moreno could explain what happened to their child, but a specialist reviewing the incident characterized the bruising near the fracture as resembling a handprint. And according to court documents, their toddler once told Moreno, quote, "Daddy, kill you." Miller has not only denied these allegations, but he's gone on offense, trying to paint a picture of Moreno throughout public interviews and filings as mentally ill, quote, "not all there," and a liar who is trying to, quote, "undermine his odds at re-election to Congress." And if you are wondering, not a single Republican colleague has called for Miller to resign or end his campaign at this point. Even Senator Bernie Moreno, the father of the woman Miller says is not all there, has not yet done so. I want to bring in Annie Carney, a congressional correspondent for the New York Times, who's been reporting on these allegations against Miller. Annie, it's good to see you. I just want to start with you giving a bigger picture of these accusations, because I could not even list all of them.
Yeah, I mean, they've been kind of locked in a court battle for years now. So it's complicated and there's many layers to it. But you hit kind of the main ones: holding a gun to her head, scalding her skin with hot water, the broken collarbone of the toddler. He has shared, and then instead of not, he has kept this in the news by countersuing and making allegation against her that she has untreated bipolar disorder, that he's accused her of stalking. He has accused her of trying to ruin his reputation. He's sued her for defamation. So it's just become, and it's all in unsealed court documents for the whole world to look at. It's really ugly. It's incredibly awkward this involves two powerful Republican families in Ohio. As you said, Bernie Moreno, Emily's father, is in a difficult position here. He is trying to kind of say nothing while privately being protective of his daughter. It's a really painful, traumatic, horrible story that's playing out in a re-election cycle that already doesn't favor Republicans in a district that should not be up for grabs, but now is looking very close with even White House officials who are close with Max Miller. He served in the first Trump administration, now privately starting to express real concern about his handling all of this and worried that it could cost them the House.
Well, to your point, to his ties to this White House, his allegations actually are not just limited to this ex-wife, to Moreno's daughter. They go back to Stephanie Grisham, who was once the White House press secretary.
That's a really important point, that right now we have allegations on both sides between Emily Moreno and Max Miller. But this is not the first woman who has accused him of domestic abuse. He dated, during the first Trump administration, Stephanie Grisham, the former White House press secretary, who in her memoir wrote that she dated a fellow colleague who was abusive to her. She didn't name him in the memoir, but later she conceded that she was writing about Max Miller. That changes the story a little bit. Now we have two women accusing him of similar behavior. And Grisham actually reopened another lawsuit against him this month, claiming that he violated their non-disclosure agreement in recent round of interviews he's been doing about Emily Moreno by saying she fabricated the abuse. In both instances, he has just denied everything. But it is worth pointing out that it's not, that there's a pattern here of women accusing him of this behavior.
I'm sure you saw it, but Mike Johnson was asked, of course, about these allegations. And as I mentioned at the beginning, Miller isn't even the only Republican who's facing some allegations of this nature right now. But he said at the time, the key word there is allegation. We have a process here. I'm not in the business of commenting on investigations when they are in the process. And that's, he's basically saying that's how it's always worked. What he didn't really address is the reality that in the case of Eric Swalwell, right, for example, those were allegations. That's not something that went to court and has been litigated, at least at this time. And still, there was bipartisan outrage, condemnation, and he is no longer serving. Why do you think it is that there isn't a same standard here for someone who's in the midst of a campaign, an important campaign?
Well, I think the politics are clear. Mike Johnson is at risk of losing control of the House. All Republicans are worried that Democrats are going to take back the House next year. Max Miller is in a seat that Donald Trump won by double digits in 2024, that district, the 7th District of Ohio. This should not be in play. He can't afford to, say politically, he can't say this guy needs to go. But this is also in line with how he's treated a lot of these. Tony Gonzalez in Texas, who was accused of having an affair with a staffer who later lit herself on fire, is no longer in Congress. But at the time that those allegations were surfacing, Johnson called on him to end his reelection bid, but stopped short of calling him to step down from his seat. That eventually happened in conjunction with Swalwell leaving. But these basically leadership stance actually in both parties is usually not to call for them to resign. We did not see leadership, Democratic leaders, calling for Swalwell to resign immediately. They called for him to end his gubernatorial campaign. They are usually loath to override the will of the voters and say something like that, and they usually want to just say, let the process play out.
Well, Annie Karni, thank you so much for this important reporting. I understand the political costs here and that people don't want to lose a seat, but it sounds like people's lives may have allegedly been at risk here. But thank you for your work.